Well, good morning and thank you for being here. On October 12th of 2024 at approximately 7:06 a.m., Sedgwick County Emergency Communications received a call from a male stating that someone at 6901 West Childs in Wichita County had a gun and was going to shoot people. When asked by the call taker who the suspect was, the caller stated that they were calling about themselves. Additionally, the caller stated, "You better hurry up before I do it." Law enforcement from multiple agencies responded to this call and located a sedan being driven by a 27-year-old Jonathan Macias of Sedgwick County. Officers gave commands to Mr. Macias, identifying themselves as law enforcement, and they activated their overhead light bars. For about an hour, Mr. Macias would exit his vehicle and approach residences and then get back into his vehicle and drive around the neighborhood. Law enforcement recognized the gentleman was wearing a ballistic vest carrier. A deputy reported that Mr. Macias had a handgun during the incident. He communicated this over the radio. Law enforcement deployed tire deflation devices in the path of the vehicle, which did deflate the tires, but Mr. Macias was still able to drive his vehicle around the immediate area. At approximately 8:12 a.m., law enforcement, concerned for the safety of the occupants of 6901 West Childs, where family members were located, moved up toward Mr. Macias and at a location closer to contain him. In response, Mr. Macias drove his vehicle through the front yards, fences, and trees, through the front yards, fences, and around trees that law enforcement, and around trees and around law enforcement vehicles, and got behind the officers and the deputies to the west of their location. Mr. Macias then exited his vehicle and ran back to the east in the direction of the law enforcement officers. Officers told Mr. Macias to show them his hands and to stop. Mr. Macias turned his body towards the officers and the deputies. He put his right hand behind his back, leading law enforcement to believe he was reaching for a weapon. Law enforcement from the following agencies discharged firearms or less lethal beanbag rounds: Sedgwick County Sheriff's Office, Mays Police Department, and Park City Police Department. Law enforcement officers rendered first aid and called for Sedgwick County Emergency Medical Services and Sedgwick County Fire Department to respond. Mr. Macias was pronounced deceased at the scene by the Sedgwick County Emergency Medical Services. The Advanced Law Enforcement Response Team, commonly known as ALERT, was activated by Sheriff Jeff Easter to investigate the shooting, and the Wichita Police Department is the lead investigative agency for this incident. This investigation is still active with additional interviews to be conducted. We do believe that individuals in the neighborhood where this incident occurred may have additional information. I am asking anyone with information about this incident who has not already spoken with investigators to please call the Wichita Police Department Investigations Division at 316-268-4407. The facts of this case will be presented to Sedgwick County District Attorney Mark Bennett by Wichita Police Department members of the Advanced Law Enforcement Response Team. As we are still conducting interviews with involved officers and witnesses, the information that we can release is limited. We will now go through a brief presentation, including a timeline and body-worn camera video, and then I will be glad to take some questions. Okay, this is the timeline. 7:06 a.m. is when the first call comes in to Sedgwick County Communications. 7:12 a.m., first officer on the scene is a Mays police officer. 7:18 a.m., two Sedgwick County sheriff deputies arrive and they begin to attempt containment. It's at 8:12 a.m., and you'll see in the video where the gentleman drives away from law enforcement through a fence, exits his vehicle, and runs back towards law enforcement. It's at approximately 8:13 a.m. that less lethal and lethal shots are fired by Sedgwick County Sheriff's deputies and Park City and Mays PD police departments.
911, what's the location of your emergency?
This is the radio call.
It is, what is it? 6901 Charles Street.
6901 what street?
Child.
Childs, okay. West Childs. What's your phone number that you're on?
So that is
User
Mr.
wants to verify, please. Okay, tell me exactly what happened.
There's a guy here with a gun and he's pointing.
Who is he to you?
Huh?
Do you know who he is?
Yeah.
Who is he? What?
I'm gonna shoot someone.
Is it you?
Yep.
Did you drive there or walk there?
Right now I'm walking.
Okay, there's no reason to shoot anyone this morning. What's your first name?
You know what? I'm John Doe. Alright, let's just keep it that way.
What happened to where you're wanting to try to shoot somebody? What's going on?
You better hurry up before I do it.
So that was Mr. Macias calling 911, alerting them that he had intent to use a firearm, and that's what initiates this incident. This gives you an idea of, this is where ultimately the focus was, but throughout this over hour-long event, Mr. Macias is driving his car throughout this neighborhood repeatedly, with officers trying to get him stopped, and were unsuccessful in doing so, even though they did deploy stop sticks, and his tires were flattened. So the officers respond to a domestic violence with a weapon call. Dispatch attempts to call the caller back multiple times. They do not receive an answer. Upon arrival, officers and deputies encounter a vehicle on the roadway and begin to give commands. This is the first contact.
Show me the black shirt! The sheriff's office! Show us your hands!
Those are activating overhead lights, so it's clear that they are police officers. So Mr. Macias is wearing a ballistic vest carrier. Law enforcement throughout this event continues to attempt to make contact. They were not successful. He continues to drive his vehicle erratically around the neighborhood. Law enforcement attempts to contain Mr. Macias in the area, and deputies report seeing Mr. Macias one deputy does report seeing Mr. Macias with a handgun during this incident, and he does communicate that over radio. That is the vest carrier. Now, to be clear, there were not panels in there. That is a carrier. But that is not something that you would know unless you were holding it. And then we're going to show you a video of Mr. Macias exiting his vehicle and running back in the direction of law enforcement.
Stop! Look to your hands! Look to your hands!
The incident ends with when law enforcement seized Mr. Macias, laid his body, and reached towards his back, not following commands. You also hear officers warning they're about to deploy less lethal, and also ordering him not to reach.
That's legal, that's legal.
And this is the point at which officers discharge.